Children of the Sea. This is a movie that was supposed to be in theaters this year, back in, I believe, April or March. But then it got postponed because of the virus, and then they just said we're just going to release it on Netflix anyways, which is a real shame because this movie has a lot of, the first half at least is very cinematic, has a lot of big open areas and big like zooming in sections. It's very cinematic. This movie was really weird. I really love, like I said, I love the first half. The first half is about this girl who's dealing with family issues. She has a hard time at school because the kids this one girl picks on her and no one stands up for her. And when she stands up for herself, the principal or the teacher or whatever, he scolds her, but he doesn't scold the other girl who's bullying her. And then her mom's drunk and doesn't pay as much attention to her. So the first half of this movie is about this girl, Ruka, trying to get along with her friends, and then she meets these new kids who are apparently who they found in the Sea of the Philippines. And they think, okay, it's gonna be like some sort of like supernatural friendship movie about the ocean and stuff.
The movie feels like more visually striking rather than like really comfortable in telling a full narrative story.
It feels like I said, this movie for me, the first half is really good, but for me it feels like it's trying to be two movies in once. The first movie is trying to be about a girl trying to sorry, you saying?
I feel like it was more it wanted to be. I feel like it wanted to tell. It wanted to give a story regarding this connection between like all of nature and humanity and things, but it kind of had to start like a usual Asian drama. And I know a lot of Asian dramas that start off like this. I know a lot of Asian dramas that start off with like a teenager struggling to, find themselves, but then it becomes this sort. But then it expands into some sort into like these sort of like. I don't know how to say it. It's like a very supernatural territory.
Surreal. It starts off as an adventure movie with kids learning about themselves, developing themselves as people, the power of magic and imagination, good stuff. But then it becomes a surrealist, psychological mind clusterfuck of like a wave of stuff. And like I said,
the thing about this it wants.
Two movies in once. That's the best part.
The thing about it is that it starts as it starts when the movie starts. We feel like we're dealing with the female lead's perspective.
Yeah.
But then suddenly, it ultimately puts away a lot of attention from. Well, it takes a lot of attention from her and puts more attention towards these two supernatural underwater beings. Yeah,
and for me, the way they introduced them was really weird. I thought like at first they were going to be like these things that only Ruka can see. But then when they first introduced the character Umi, the father sees them too. So like, okay, so they're not magical beings. So how is he able to talk underwater? And then later on, which I think, okay, maybe they just hurt very shows, I don't know. Point is, later on, like I said, the first half I like it so much because it did a really good job establishing all the characters and stuff. But the next half tries to be end of Evangelion with a mix of I don't know, a bunch of other philosophical anime or surreal anime.
It goes like.
Well, remember that movie Night is Young, Walk On Girl?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first half is typical.
I don't know if it's really similar to that.
Yeah, it's like a mix of the ending. It's like a mix of the end of Evangelion and the Night is Short, Walk On Girl. Well, it's very surreal, very psychological.
There was like the thing is, it feels like. I felt like it should have went. I felt like I understand that it needed to have a story and dialogue, but the thing about this is. It started out out very regular and expanded into everything. But there are movies that do it.
Yeah.
There were anime movies that did it very well.
This movie is an hour and 51 minutes, and there's an after credit scene. So,
Speaking of which,
so it's less than
yeah.
2 hours. I just checked. It's based on a 5 manga miniseries. Written by some guy called Daisuke something, whatever his name was, Daisuke Igarashi. So you're taking 5 mangas worth of character development story and trying to cram into a movie that's less than 2 hours long, and things just pop out of nowhere for the sake of saying, okay, this person's doing this thing, now this person's doing this thing, now this person's doing this thing, now this person's trying to bribe this person, but he's not, but he thinks he's being bribed, he's not being bribed.
And let me tell you something. There were a lot of especially looking at studios that were able to adapt manga very well. You look at like someone.
Penguin Highway. Penguin Highway, one of my favorite anime movies of last year.
Penguin Highway, which was written by Tomohiko. Well, I forgot his name. Himura.
The manga was written by Tomohiko Morini.
Yeah, who also wrote Night of Short Walking Girl and the Tatami Galaxy.
Yeah.
But 2 properties which Masaaki Yuasa and his studio was able to adapt into really concise narrative stories without taking away from a lot of the atmosphere.
It really did feel to me, like they said, that the first hour was trying to get set up for a TV series. Like if this movie had just been like the first half and the whole movie was just like a pilot for a television series, I think that, or mini series, that would have worked in its favor. Because now there were so many characters that appear towards him. There's this military the U.S. military is trying to bribe this Japanese guy, this bald guy with blue eyes, and bribe him to tell him the location of where this cataclysmic event's going to happen. But he doesn't want to tell him. He doesn't want them to take advantage of it, to use it for their own personal gain. Which comes out of nowhere.
By the way, he is also working with this young sage-like character.
Wow. She was around like 50 or whatever.
Well,
the black one.
Well, there was there was a black woman who, at the end, describes kind of a similar idea, a similar.
Give me the guy with the ponytail, who's helping out cooking the lobster, cooking the crab.
Well, I was gonna get to that.
That guy, yeah.
Because I don't know what kind of thing he was spouting out, but he was always given like this, the monologues about, you need to save Umi through this and this and this.
It felt like fortune cookie cutter dialogue, and instead of feeling natural for me, it just felt like he was this exposition character. It didn't come across as natural.
He only talked with the female lead once.
Yeah.
In the middle of the movie, and everything else was like spouting all this sage-like stuff about like about how every life form is kind of similar no matter where they are, and I'm like, it's. I mean, I get it. It's.
And then towards the very last 25 minutes, there's a clusterfuck of things happening. The universe implodes and it gets recreated like an end of Evangelion.
It becomes like two. Yeah, it gave me like it's like 2001 vibes, and it's like, okay, where did this
and the worst part is the first like 20 minutes of the movie, all the characters we established in the first 20 minutes of the movie, the bully girl who trips Ruka, her mom's alcoholism, her asshole teacher who won't help her, all those things never get addressed, and they just magically and at the end of the movie we just see the scene where the bully girl throws a ball at her and Ruka throws it back. Then it cuts the credits. There's a post-credit scene where Ruka's mother is having a new baby, and all of a sudden she's no longer an alcoholic, and we never hear from the teacher again. And like, what the fuck happened to those plot points? You introduced them to us and they go nowhere.
I feel like everything was. Yeah, I feel like all of these were established just so the character could not feel like the female lead could not feel like a Mary Sue.
Yeah,
But
let's make her a rebellious tomboy who punches this or elbows this girl in the face and breaks her nose. That's the only thing they do to make her seem like a tomboy. That's
the lack of addressing all these plots is something that it's a common mistake for like writing your first characters.
It feels like American comic book writing. Okay, the difference between Japanese manga and American comics is when you have a bully or a bad guy in an American comic, you want to like drag it out forever so it can be milked. You can constantly spin-offs and like have different artists make their own interpretation of it. This isn't a comic book. This is less than 2 hour movie. It's on a relatively short runtime given the fact it's based on 5 manga volumes, and everything is like so rushed, and the things that should you give attention to all these stupid things that don't matter, like the military, and they're trying to apparently find out when this cataclysmic event's gonna happen.
It feels like all of the I'm not sure how long was the manga, but it feels
5 volumes.
But it feels like they crammed all of that.
Penguin Highway was 2 volumes, I just checked. So of course, turning 2 manga volumes into a 2 hour movie is a lot easier than turning 5 manga volumes into a 2 hour movie. And I just feel, like I said, I feel like if the first hour of this movie was used as the pilot to introduce us to a series and make it into like a 12 episode miniseries using the first hour as a pilot episode, that could have been better. The way everything is, like I said, the first hour is really cinematic and very good.
Which I feel like it's great to see because there is it is something that you don't see in a lot of anime movies, because a lot of them can go either old fashioned or embrace new technologies. I felt like it was embracing some new technologies and giving us a really good spectacle, but again, a lot of the spectacle is not worth it unless you have something compelling.
Yeah, I like Sora because Sora, he was the older brother of Umi, these 2 children of the sea, and he's got this like mysterious vibe going on him, and you see that there's this like you introduce him as kind of like a hard ass where he's very difficult to get along with, but you feel like he's just doing that because he's trying to protect his younger brother. And later on, what happens is after there's this one moment that I really like in the middle when they're having a campfire and they're cooking a lobster or whatever, and they're working with this guy with a ponytail. I forget what his name is. They're working with this older guy with a ponytail who's
the sage.
The sage, I guess you call him that, yeah. And he's very nice to them, and he teaches them how to do cooking. I like small, quiet moments like those. Small, quiet moments like those are much better in a movie like this. Are much more impactful to me than a universe imploding event that comes out of nowhere, because the small quiet moments were earned. They earned those. This movie does not earn a universe imploding cataclysmic event at the last fourth of the film, which we don't almost next to nothing about, or we have our hints of it.
You risk I think when you want to build up to a climax that really doesn't fit well with the rest of the really good character development we got in the first half.
First hour, so rough about first.
Yeah, first.
Oh yeah, but it's the first half. Yeah.
You risk any of the emotional weight you get when you risk losing all that emotional weight, all these great subtle moments, because you're going in favor of rather visual spectacle rather than all style, no substance, visual storytelling,
which worked for Night is Short Walk on Girl, because that's the way it introduced itself. This movie, for the first hour, introduced itself as a very character-driven, emotionally invested in adventure story with some sci-fi elements, but for the most part,
and then it became Fantasia.
But for the most part, it's a kid adventure movie.
I love really cool visual moments.
Like when they were looking at the stars. When they were looking at the stars, like, oh, look at the meteor or the wisp or whatever. Those are fun because they got you interested. You wanted to learn more. But then the thing is,
I mean, honestly, the all these moments that you know, that like pop out, those. I mean, I like those. I mean, you just kind of when you have when you spend more time on that over the course of the film, you feel like you are trying to have your cake and eat it too, but it's not. But it doesn't quite work.
I think the old expression is "have your cake and eat it too" or whatever. Anyway, or you can't eat your cake and have it too, or whatever. Anyway, well, like I said, for me though, like I said, the best moments are the quiet moments where they're just enjoying themselves, they're having a good time, they're looking at the stars, or when they meet the sage person, right before they cook dinner, they're all having a nice time swimming, and the water becomes all purple and crystally, and they look at the stars, they're all like gazing at the stars. Quiet moments like that are what make this movie, are what this movie should have been about. But then after the first hour, then they introduce this American or Russian or whatever guy who's been secretly working with this bald guy who's got blue eyes. So I'm assuming he's either American or Russian because so anyway, and they introduce this bald guy as this guy who's been infiltrating the aquarium to learn more about these kids because they apparently have the power to lead them to this where this cataclysmic event will occur, and they're I guess they're trying to stop it from occurring, or maybe they're trying to harness its power. I don't know. They never explain it. You know what movie did this whole kind of weird event thing with like a special person? Weathering with You. Yeah, exactly. Because the whole movie, while it was a sci-fi adventure movie with kids, it did have a lot of moments where you're able to take in the atmosphere and enjoy it. Here, like I said, the first hour.
The climax was the climax was at least well deserved.
The climax, while not up to par with Children with Jesus Lost Voices, in my opinion, and that's why I didn't like Weathering with You's ending that much. The first 4/5 of that movie were very good. Only the last 10 minutes kind of cheesed me off, but it still felt natural for that movie's universe. Even though it was kind of cheesy, it was cheesy in a way that felt natural for the rules that were established in that movie's world. Here, it starts like it establishes itself for the first hour, like I said, as a kid adventure movie with a little bit of sci-fi, but you feel like it's going to rely mostly on the kids.
This is how it looks, and this is how it looks. It's like this, it's like this, it's like this a little bit, and then boom.
Exactly. You can't just establish a movie as a movie about a kid-friendly, an adventure movie involving kids with a little dash of sci-fi into this apocalyptic universe-ending event in a span of less than 30 minutes, and at the same time try to shove in all this Russian guy who's trying to infiltrate the place.
I feel like the concepts could have been, yeah, like Alex said, I think the concepts could have been brought better if, either they take away all that dead weight or make the first hour of this film a pilot. Yeah, or make it into like a series of either like a mini series of long, like at least like 45-minute episodes.